Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting of the York City Planning Commission to order. May we have a roll call?
Johnson,
Here.
Davis.
Here.
Velez,
Here.
Burgos, Wolf,
Here.
Richardson, Gaines.
Here.
Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes? Is there a motion to accept if there are no additions, edits?
I make a motion to approve the minutes from the October meeting of the York City Planning Commission.
Second?
Motion second. Any further discussion?
Who seconded it? Okay, sorry.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? So moved. Committee reports, zoning hearing board were emailed. Everybody have a chance to review them? Hello? Oh, okay. Any unfinished business? Do we have any updates on the comprehensive plan?
So Jessica said that she would not be ready to present tonight for November, to be heard in December. So we're shooting for her to come into December for you guys to be able to vote in January. That's the last I heard.
How are they coming along with the overlay?
Have not heard anything else on that.
Okay. New business, zoning appeals. First case is 43-2023-Z-SE, 649 West Philadelphia Street. First, we'll hear from the staff, and we'll ask the applicant to step forward.
All right, the applicant and owner is Judith Arimi for 353 Majestic Circle, Dallastown, Pennsylvania, 17313. Zoning district is UN2, Urban Residential Neighborhood District. The summary, the property when purchased was marketed and being used as a multifamily dwelling with long-term tenants already in place. The applicant is seeking a special exception for the use and 3 variants to bring the property into compliance with the zoning ordinance as a multifamily licensed 2 unit. Variance Appeal 1, the applicant seeks a definition variance since the proposed use does not meet the ordinance requirements of conversion from industrial, institutional, or commercial. The property is a single-family home. Staff have reviewed the variance provision of 1311.10.d. Therefore, staff recommend denial of the definition variance to allow 2 units for the property at 649 West Philadelphia Street. Variance 2, the applicant seeks a variance to the special exception condition that the property has not been vacant for 2 years. The applicant purchased the property as a 2 unit with long-standing tenants. Therefore, hardship has been achieved for this variance in section 1311.11 subsection C. Therefore, staff recommends approval of the variance to the special exception condition of the property being vacant for 2 years. For the property at 649 West Philadelphia Street, variance 3, the zoning ordinance requires 3 off-street parking spaces for the proposed 2 units, and the applicant can provide only 2. The applicant is seeking a variance to reduce the number of off-street parking spaces. Staff has reviewed the variance provision in 1311.10.d and finds that the property does not have unique physical circumstances or conditions that warrant relief from the requirement of 1.5 parking space per dwelling unit. Therefore, staff recommends denial of a variance in the minimum number of parking spaces required for a multifamily dwelling for the property at 649 West Philadelphia Street. Special exception use, the zoning ordinance permits multifamily conversion from a different use by special exception in the zoning district in section 1304.1.1.02.002. Staff has reviewed the special exception provision for this property. Therefore, staff recommend approval of the request for a special exception to allow a multifamily dwelling at 649 West Philadelphia pending all variants are approved.
Is the applicant present?
Yes, right.
Could you step forward and provide your name for the record?
Thank
Thank you. My name is Judith Arimi.
And could you tell me a little bit more of what you're planning to do here? Or it's already, you purchased it as a 2-unit?
I purchased it, yes, as it is,
When did you purchase it?
in 2006.
I'm sorry?
2006.
What brought you to us this evening? I mean, how were you notified that you were out of compliance?
I came to apply for the. I lived in the unit. When I purchased the unit, I purchased it and I stayed there with my family. So when I moved out and got another place, I wanted to rent it out. And when I came down here to get a permit to rent it out, and that's when they told me that they don't have it as a 2-unit. They have it as a single unit.
What parking arrangements do you have on the property? In the back, are there any spaces?
At the back, I have a two-car garage that is detached from the house itself. So that can take 2 cars, and then most of the other people park in front of, on the street, on West Philadelphia Street. And there is the other there is an alley at the back also that someone can find space out there if they need to. But the property has a 2-car garage. Yeah.
Anyone have any questions?
So to clarify, you purchased the property in 2006, you said?
Yes,
And you purchased it as a multifamily, so it had 2 kitchens, like all the stuff I can see on the pictures.
yes,
And then you lived in it as a single family.
yes.
Are
Yeah.
the pictures new or old? Like, did you keep the second kitchen, like all that just stayed in there and you just?
Yeah, I did not change anything.
Okay.
Yeah, but we did not use that much. I have 2 children and it's my husband, so we did not. We used, mostly we did not even use the top floor of it. We just used this first and second
So
floors.
for it to go back to a multifamily, it's no modification, you just?
No, I don't need to do anything to it.
I also just want to say that under the off-street parking, if you can change that section to 1311.10.d as in dog, please. There's a typo in there, the third one down.
And now that we've all looked in the packet and found that, can you say that again, Kurt?
And when the
Section is, just give me the section.
on the agenda, on the third one, down for the 3 off-street parking, it's section 1311.10.d as in dog, instead of the section that's listed there.
Any other questions? Is there a motion for the variance for,
I make
The
a motion
definition.
for the variance to the definition of a multifamily conversion from a different use as defined in section 1304.01-1.02.002A at 649 West Philadelphia Street.
is there a second? Did you,
Yeah, I motioned for the variance, so
Okay.
theoretically that.
any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, I vote no. Variance number 2 for the special exception.
I recommend approval of a variance to waive the special exception provision that the property must have been vacant for 2 years, found in section 1311.11C1 for the property located at 649 West Philadelphia Street.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? So moved. Variance 3 for the parking.
I recommend approval of a variance to the required 3 off-street parking spaces to be reduced to 2, found in section 1311.10.d for the property at 649 West Philadelphia Street.
Second.
Any further questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I vote no. Special exception for use?
I recommend approval of an exception to allow a multifamily use as defined in section 130401-102.002 at 649 West Philadelphia Street.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved. Your next hearing will be the 16th for the zoning hearing board in this location, correct? Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I appreciate.
Case 44-2023-Z-V, 611 West Market Street.
Applicant and owner is Regulo Wallaby, 160 West Market Street, Unit 972, York, PA. He's in the UN 1 Urban Mixed Residential Commercial District. The applicant proposes to use the property as a rooming house. The rooming house will have 6 rooms in total, owner occupied. Some of the bedrooms are smaller than the minimum square footage of 250 square feet required by the zoning ordinance. The applicant can provide the required 4 off-street parking spaces. The applicant is seeking 1 variance to provisions of the use and 1 special exception to allow the use. Variance 1, minimum room size. The zoning ordinance requires that within a rooming house, each room for rent be at least 250 square feet in the area. This bedroom is existing and likely the same size as its original construction. The applicant has not altered the property. Staff recommend approval of a variance to allow a rental room smaller than 250 square feet as defined in section 1304.2 through 7.17.B1 at the structure at 611 West Market Street in the UN1 zoning district. Special exception for the use. The zoning ordinance permits a rooming house by special exception in this zoning district. Staff has reviewed the special exception provision of section 1311.11 subsection C and finds that the property does not have unique physical circumstances or condition that warrant relief in the form of a special exception. Therefore, staff recommends denial of the request for a special exception to allow a rooming house defined in section 1304.2 through 7.17 at 611 West Market Street.
Regalo Willoughby. Okay, I purchased this property in 2016. It was a single-family house. It was a rental. I subsequently came to the understanding that it was not approved through the city, so I went to get approval, and thus why I'm here. In reference to the petition, I will be living on site. I will be performing the property management services. The property has state-of-the-art CCTV system. It does have digital permit to go in and out the facility. It's also linked into the police and firefighters. Just need to activate it. It's pretty much ready.
I'm probably louder than the microphone is. Something I think I was struggling with when I was looking at it. This is like a weird mixture of multifamily and rooming home, right? Like some of the units have a kitchen, and I assume we're looking at a multifamily that is being converted into a rooming home. Is that correct?
When we went there, the whole configuration is so crazy, we have no clue, but the last we had on record, it was a single-family home. So Steve Buffington, the BCO, went out there and did a walkthrough of the property and gave him pointers on what he needed to do to get everything according to codes, you might as well say. So then he had to come here and see if he can get approval.
Okay.
Can I,
Is rooming house still the best use? Because, but isn't rooming house by definition with, I guess I'm getting a little confused with the definition of rooming house, because isn't that defined by like the shared spaces of like the kitchen, bathroom, so on and so forth, but that's not the case for every unit in here, or how is that set up?
I can explain. When I initially went to propose the correct modification for the property to get the approval, I was going to do it as a 4 apartments. As you mentioned, when Mr. Buffington came and saw the situation and so forth, he indicated a few things that would be necessary for me to continue as 4 apartments. He said, given that those things were not met, it would be best for me to go this route, because the requirements, I would meet the requirements for the rooming house as opposed to the 4 apartments. To answer your question, there are, each floor has its kitchen, so ones can utilize kitchen. There are 4 bathrooms, so there won't be a congestion for users of the bathroom, and also we installed an extra water heater, so there won't be any issue with hot water.
So each floor then, if we're understanding this, is kind of its own rooming house in that, not that you're getting, I'm not saying you're getting like a bunch of permits for different rooming houses. It's like, I just want to understand because you say like one unit, when you define a unit, some of them do have a living room, some of them don't. Some of them do have a kitchen, some of them don't. And so on each level, the people who don't have a kitchen are sharing the kitchen of the unit that does on that floor? Because usually when someone describes a rooming house in the paper, they're like, oh, this is the shared kitchen, this
Okay,
is the shared
gotcha.
living room. And I want to make sure it's not like, oh, yeah, this person, unit 5, they just get this bedroom and bed. They don't get, they
Okay,
don't get a kitchen or something.
the best way, I'm gonna give it based on the pictures. Unit 2 has its own kitchenette, so they have their own ability to utilize their Unit 1 has their own kitchen space as well, and Unit 3 does. Unit 4 and 5, they utilize a shared kitchen and a shared bathroom,
Between them and not the other ones.
not the others.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because essentially, like I said, I was trying to
That's what I
propose it
missed.
as a apartment equation.
So when we see unit 5 and we see the living room and kitchen there, that is shared with unit 4, you're saying, or unit 6,
Now, Unit 6 is its own separate entity. Unit 4,
its own jazz.
yeah, Unit 4 and Unit 5.
So unit 4 and 5 are on the same level? Like, are they adjacent to each other and it just doesn't show that on level 3, or?
Let me backtrack. It's unit, based on what you have, and I have it. Unit 4 and Unit 3, my apologies. Unit 4 and Unit 3 utilizes the similar bathroom as well as kitchen. Unit 5, my apologies, is on the 3rd level by itself, which
you-
has its own bathroom and kitchen space.
So you said unit 3 and unit 4 are the
Right.
shared ones?
Correct.
Where is the kitchen between unit 3 and 4? I see 2 bedrooms, 1 living room, and the hallway, I guess, and a secondary hallway.
It would be, actually, there's the 2. Is not in the picture. I don't have a photo of that. My humble apologies.
And to clarify, our approving of this, that thing that we're looking at right now, like he said, those 2 pair up, it doesn't have a shared kitchen. That's a thing Buffington would be, he'd be like, oh yeah, you still need a kitchen for these guys. So that's not something we need to worry about, correct? Correct, good. Wow, that's a fun one. That's fun. I like that.
I'm having a hard time with this, like, being halfway between rooming house and multifamily. Because I feel like it's a property that almost has the potential to be multifamily. I'm not sure what Buffington was asking you to address to get that far. Could you elaborate on that?
Yes, I apologize. Well, first, let me clear up this scenario. Originally, I was going for 4 units, with the owner living in a separate unit. What Mr. Buffington said that if you go beyond the scope of 4, I would have to have a back fire space, a fire
Sprinkler
exit
system.
situation,
Anything.
as well. I would have a compressing fire sprinkler system, and some other things. And he said, based on how it's laid out, and pretty much how much it will cost in a short period of time, it was not a feasible situation for myself. But given how it's laid out, it just took a little bit of modification to address the apartments turning into rooms as opposed to keeping them as apartments. The reason why it's kind of like some of the pictures that are utilized for the units were the same pictures that were utilized in the apartments. If I were to give you a visual, a simple visual is this. 1, 2, 3. 3 units on the second level, 2 bathrooms on the second level, and a kitchen on the second level. On the third level, you have 2 units, which has a kitchen and a bath. And the first level, the owner, myself, I have my own kitchen and bath, and the other last resident on the front half of the building has their own kitchen and bath. It's kind of, it best to be seen in person, to say the least.
You said 2 units on the top floor, or just 1?
It has it's 1 unit. It's noticed as unit 5, or the case may be. But it's 1 entry to get to that, and it has 2, it's split into 2, but it's 1 unit. I will call it more of if it would have been considered like an efficiency apartment, if I had gone the route before Mr. Buffington informed me that to make it as a unit itself, it would have been an efficiency because it has 2 sections, but it has 1 entrance to get inside that particular location.
Okay.
That makes sense.
But you would only be renting it out as 1
That is correct.
space.
That is correct.
Got it.
How many parking spaces are available?
Currently, we have 4.
And if this would have been a 4-unit multifamily, how many parking spots would have been required? I think that's the part. I see what Buffington was doing by labeling it like that. I would worry that in a normal rooming house, it utilizes less parking because it is usually targeting like a more limited means solution to like temporary rent or, things like that. And that's an argument that we we commonly hear about rooming houses. But it looks like these would be.
6
So it would need 6.
for the 4 units,
But
sorry.
because it's a rooming house, it does not need 6.
Correct. The rooming house just requires a total of 4.
Yeah, because it's one, what is it only? That's insane.
That's,
that's not
that's
a
in
thing
the,
that's
that's in the ordinance. It
It's not a
just,
thing that's listed,
4.
that there's no exception. It's a thing that would, in this, I think, specific situation, potentially create a headache for someone, but if those someones aren't here and they're complaining about the potential of people taking their parking spots, then,
He's only required to supply 4 spots, and he didn't do the variance because he can supply the 4 spots.
okay. And you are fine with it being designated as rooming and not multifamily?
Yes, sir.
It's not like us jamming a square into a circle hole or something?
No, sir.
All right.
And as I think past, if I was to sell the property, I have no problem readjusting it back to a single-family situation as well.
He's talking about the conditions that sometimes they set on there.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think that answers my questions.
A building of this age does not require a sprinkler system in the central business district?
He's in the UN1.
Oh, I'm sorry. I had the wrong name this in my mind. Any other questions? Do we have a motion for minimum room size?
A motion for the approval of a variance to each room to be larger than 250 square feet as defined in section 1304.02-7.17.b1 for the property located at 611 West Market Street in the UN1 district, on the condition that the property revert back to single-family on sale.
Question.
Yes.
You said larger than 250. It's going for a 240.
Yeah, I guess it's, wait, yeah, but the variance says that they must be 250 or larger, right? So that's quoting the variance that each room be larger than 250. So we're giving him the variance to that rule. Correct? Excellent.
Second.
I did catch that mentally, too.
We had a second? Motion and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye opposed? So moved. Special exception use.
I make a motion for approval of a special exception to allow a rooming house as defined in section 1304.02-7.17 for the property located at 611 West Market Street on the condition that the property revert back to single-family on sale.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I oppose.
I vote no.
I oppose.
You know what her voices sound like, Nancy?
But motion carries.
I don't think it does. Or, I'm
Yep,
sorry.
that's-
you said- Yeah.
That is for.
Votes 4 to 2.
Right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Who was the fourth?
All the way down there?
She said
Oh,
oppose.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that didn't carry.
No.
She said oppose.
Well, then it doesn't carry.
Or no recommendation, yeah.
Sir,
Fuck
sir,
me.
sir.
Make up your fucking mind if you want rooming houses or not.
Yeah. You got that right, because no, he was saying it carried, so I was just making sure it was clear.
No, because I didn't hear.
Yeah. Right,
It goes,
Right.
it goes forward with no recommendation.
right, right.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Who's racist now?
The confusion was there were 3 to 3 votes. 3 yes, 3 no's
That's for which,
for the lack of special exception.
Yeah, the rooming house, yeah.
So it will go to zoning with no recommendation from the planning commission.
Okay,
So it'll be their decision.
okay. Thank you.
And are we missing our final applicant?
Appears so.
Do we need to table that?
No, they can, if the applicant shows up on Thursday, they can go in front of the zoning hearing board with no recommendation from the planning commission. Now, if they don't show up for either, Monty will get a hold of them. But if she doesn't show up for any of, either one of them, then they have to, sign the waiver and all that stuff.
Okay.
Okay, open forum. Anybody have anything?
Yeah, about what you just said. So someone could just decide to skip planning commission and then show up at zoning and circumvent our recommendation? That seems like a loophole.
Well, it's because that, the planning commission is a recommending board, so also
Didn't
with
give them
that,
a chance to recommend, though.
okay, but also with that being said, that if, let's say we didn't have a quorum or something, and there was only one or two of you, it's not like we have to cancel the zoning hearing board meeting, they can go in front of zoning hearing board too.
That one I get. That's a situation we caused as opposed to someone could just.
Right.
Yeah, that seems,
But only for what, variances,
Strange to
not
me.
for like land division, subdevelopment?
Well, land development subdivision, they wouldn't need to go in front of the zoning hearing board.
Right, so they couldn't move forward without having their
Correct,
meeting.
yes,
right?
because the next step would be city council, so.
is there a distinction made at the zoning? If that person shows up, that it's not just like, oh, there was no recommendation.
Correct.
It's, oh, they didn't show up.
Right, it would be,
So that-
it would be put into the record that they didn't show up, so therefore, planning commission did not have an opportunity to recommend or oppose. That they're, recommend or deny, recommend.
I know they're never gonna do this because they don't care that much, but is there a chance that they could then be like, oh, we really want a recommendation of the planning, and they
Yes.
could table it to require our, okay,
Yes.
okay, that's interesting.
Do you guys take minutes and give reasons why you guys oppose? Okay, but do you want to get as far why a person or what a commissioner okays or not okays a motion?
So I've taken, all, as verbatim as we can get it here, and, oh, yeah, and I put who makes the motion, who seconds it, who, says, votes nay. I take all the minutes here, and then they go on to the zoning hearing board. They'll go, and they'll have them in with that Thursday. They'll know the minutes for Thursday. Now, on Thursday, there'll be a stenographer, because that is a public hearing.
He's saying, can he ask?
Like from us individually,
So during, I guess, once the vote was taken, you could not, but as we are in open forum now, you could ask that question as an open forum, and each commissioner could decide to answer or not, since it is still a public meeting, so yes.
Or
You
you
could
could ask
answer,
after
you could ask during public forum, which is now.
May I address that, the last question to the three individuals who indicated no? As to the reason.
I supported the staff recommendation. I supported the staff recommendation.
The recommendation that the staff made for the denial is what he's saying he approved. I'm denying it because it just was too much wishy-washy stuff going on with what is a room in the house, what isn't, or whatever. And I remember the last time you was here, that wasn't even clear either. So I feel as though that it still hasn't been cleared up, your room in house situation.
I agree, I'm just a little unclear on what the makeup would actually be. So I'm just not favorable of approving the rooming house when it's not extremely clear.
About this one.
Cause it's like some floors have a kitchen, some floors don't.
Now, to clarify, and I did, because I do want to put this one on the record, that is why I did ask our staff if that is a thing that is defined, and it is a thing that is inspected and enforced by Buffington. So like, if there is a floor or a unit that does not have access to these things, that's not a planning problem, that is an enforcement problem on his end, and he'd be like, oh, you can't put this extra one in here. The rooming house here, we're not approving how many rooms in it or how many units there are. If he is unable to provide those things, he is unable to provide them, and then it will not be inspected as such. So it could be wishy-washy in the way that it is presented, but it will not be wishy-washy once it leaves and then it is finally inspected. So
Correct.
that's just a matter of his presentation that may not have answered the questions, but essentially it's a rooming house with a couple extra bedrooms, or a couple extra bathrooms and living rooms and kitchens at the end of the day. So,
That was it. It was the three.
yeah.
Sure, thank you. Anything else?
Nope, not over here.
I think that did it, right?
I have a question regarding our executive sessions. Canceled at the last minute of the last session, because nobody had any, there were no subjects for discussion when we were provided the guidance to bring a subject. So going forward, how do you want to conduct these executive sessions?
So I would say, because they're quarterly, and it's the fourth Monday of the month, I believe, that's how it is. So I would ask that going forward, and you all have that as a, on your calendars, that the week before, get the subjects that you want to discuss to me. And I'll put a little agenda, something very informal agenda, so that we can cover those. And I will share with everyone, hey, Mike brought to the table, he wants to talk about X, Y, and Z. Chris said he wants to talk about A, B, and C. And then so that everybody kind of comes with, you know, so we're not there till 9, 10 o'clock at nighttime, so everybody knows.
Why not?
But I will say this, get them to me, because if I don't hear from anybody, I'll assume you don't have anything to talk about. And we don't, you know, we want to be able to get together, even if it's just, hey, you know, let's talk about, I don't know, rooming houses and clarity on that, or, you know, something else. I don't know, by then you might already have the comprehensive plan by Jessica, and, you know, we might want to talk about something to that matter then, because the next one, I believe, is January, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would be favorable of if submitting a week in advance, because I don't think it's worth anyone's time for us to come here if there's nothing to discuss. I think to that tune, I'd even be favorable of that meeting. I think I said this before, of that meeting being like on Zoom or something, because then even if we do get on and there's nothing to discuss, it's not like anyone drove to City Hall to find out that there's nothing to talk about. So that's just a suggestion, but I don't think that it makes sense to me if no one has any topic to discuss.
And everybody, they can get on Zoom or even Teams on their phone, correct?
Get on Teams.
If they have to.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a good point to remember that when we created the idea of this executive session, it was because we were having onboarding, like, friction and troubles. And I remember when I came on, and I'm like, I have no clue what any of this means. And so ultimately, and I'm fine, obviously this is on public record, like the idea of you come on to this commission, and I'm sure this commission is not alone in that idea, and there's just nothing. Like, you start looking at the documents, you maybe get a hold of the guiding document, which in our case is the comprehensive plan, but there's nothing that really takes you from like, I'm in this meeting to, now I'm contributing to this meeting. I understand what some of the bigger issues are, what the different sides of the bigger issues are, how I'm supposed to interpret a comprehensive plan and interpret a comprehensive plan that at times is at absolute odds to some of the things that we're seeing or trying to accomplish, or things that are in the new comprehensive plan drafts. And so being able to do that, we had a lot of turnover for a long time in this commission. So that's what those meetings were for, was so we could get on board with understanding some of this stuff. That way, when we actually started to discuss specific cases in these meetings, we were able to discuss those and ask the right questions rather than asking very basic things that made us seem like we were very new to this at times. But now we've had a couple of those, and that's good. You know, we had some of those earlier, very early on. And so I think that thing, leave it standing so that we know it's there. And I think that thing about a week ahead of time, you ask, and if we don't have a thing, just cancel it a week out. You know, it shouldn't take us more than a day to be like, I have a thing to talk about, you know. And if
And
everyone
being
just
that-
doesn't, then we're like, all right, we don't need this one. It doesn't have value. But, you know, maybe the next one we will. We'll need one when we get towards the comprehensive plan, I assume, for us to wrap our heads around it before we're all just talking about it like crazy and answering questions. So
Is that a subject that we could cover in executive session?
Yes, because you're not talking about
we're
any,
not voting or,
you're not talking about any one particular case.
Particular case?
yeah.
Everybody good with that?
Actually, sorry. Are we allowed, because I want to make sure I ask this in the public forum, are we allowed to, like, if next executive session we had wanted to understand a little bit more of the decision-making process that we had about the case that we just heard, it's already a decision and a recommendation that has been pushed forward. Are we allowed to talk about historical cases?
No.
In the executive session?
You can't talk about any one particular case now or historically. You can talk about, for instance, rooming houses. You know, what do we do in the case, or how would we go to a case where, you know, the pictures are unclear, or, you know, we don't really know what the cut up is of the house and how many, you know, we ask a question, you know, how do we present the questions? Or, for instance, you could ask, what happens if, you know, for instance, sometimes they ask why we vote nay, because I can't honestly say that I've ever had anybody ask me, even when I was on the planning commission myself years ago, why did you say nay? I don't know, Mike, you've been here forever and a
I
day.
don't remember even city council explaining a no vote.
Right. So, and
I think we did it correctly, though. I think that's.
I mean, that is your option. I don't feel as though you need to. That's just like when, on the shoe on the other foot with the applicant, if one of you asks how much they're charging per room, that applicant doesn't have to provide that information. They can say, I don't want to close that, or I don't want to say that, you know, and thinking that would steer your decision one way or the other. So we can talk in general. I mean, and granted, you're all sitting there, so in general, you would know, you know, which case that would refer to, but you have to keep it in general. You can't say, you know, any case or this case that we had, unless it's only two, or I think the most can be three of you, but it can't be all of you together. Two, possibly three.
I think it's 3.
Yeah, yeah, I think the most it can be is 3 to get together to say a specific case, you know, to talk about. But I really don't, I mean, even in general, you're gonna know if you say, well, you know, how do you want to respond to any, if a applicant would ask you why you voted nay, you know? So you can collectively decide that, or, you know, let it up to the individual if they want to say, or just tell the applicant you'd rather not say. Because I don't think you have to. I mean, that's not a have to.
We have to let them ask.
Yeah, oh yeah, they can ask anything that they want to ask, just as you all can ask anything you'd like to ask of the applicant. I mean, within reason, you know what I'm saying, on both sides. And we're all adults and we know what the within reason is. So when they have the opportunity, they can answer or they don't have to. I mean, even, you know, a question that, I don't know, that maybe they should have in that packet. It's advantageous for them to answer it because that's part of your decision making, but do they have to? No. So.
Okay, anything else? No. We stand adjourned.